1967 referendum, over 90% of Australians voted yes, given the time has come to give Aborigines a fair go in the face of racial inequality.
We have the chance to turn the pages over. We can write what we want to write. We gotta make it speak before we get much older.
We are right to instill national pride in our children, but please let's make our national pride encompass humanity.
Eddie Mabo and 5 other Pacific Islanders.
We're all someone's daughter. We're all someone's son. How long can we look at each other? Down the barrel of a gun. Got a voice, try to understand it. Make a noise and make it clear. We're not gonna sit in silence. We're not gonna live with fear. This time
I am sorry.
we know we all can stand together. With the power to be powerful, believe that we can make it better.
Australian people have spoken, and they have voted overwhelmingly yes.
We're all someone's daughter. We're all someone's son. How long can we look at each other?
2017, we seek to confirm.
Down the barrel of a gun. Sing it out. The other one's trying to understand it. Make a noise and make it clear. We're not gonna sit in silence. We're not gonna live with fear. The other voice trying to understand it. Make a noise and make it clear.
Authorised by Jeff Scott for Uluru Dialogue, Sydney.
Absolute round of applause for that incredible, powerful video. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tasneem Chopra, and thank you for joining us here tonight at the gorgeous, iconic Melbourne Town Hall for this event. A special event to broker greater understanding of what the voice to Parliament represents and what it means to you and the people around you. I'd like to start by personally acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we're meeting tonight, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I also acknowledge and extend my respects to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are joining us here this evening. This event is being live streamed, so hello to everyone joining us on internet land. I'd also like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional owners of the countries that you're tuning in from. Before we begin and get into the conversations and understanding, I just have a few housekeeping notes. Bathrooms are through the glass doors at the far end of the room. In the unlikely event of an emergency, please follow the instructions from the Town Hall staff, who are donned in head-to-toe black, as is the Melbourne uniform. And please make sure your phone is on silent, but keep it close by, because you'll be using it to interact with polls and ask questions tonight. Now, tonight is a special opportunity to listen, to learn, to ask questions, and to reflect upon the upcoming Voice to Parliament referendum. We're joined by some illustrious leaders and activists and movers and shakers in this space to really get the conversation going, who will lead important conversations to answer the questions that you have. Again, please leverage the Slido mechanism when the instructions, which are self-evident, to get those questions across. We will not be having any roving mics for this function in order to make it more efficient. The panellists and the speakers tonight, who I'm sure you'll join me in making feel welcome, include Noel Pearson, Auntie Jill Gallagher AO, Marcus Stewart, Dr. Shireen Morris, and Uncle Andrew Gardner. We will also hear from the City of Melbourne's Lord Mayor, Sally Capp. Welcome, Lord Mayor. And before our panels come together, we'll also hear a keynote address from Jill and Noel, followed by an incredible live performance from Mitch Tambo. There'll be an opportunity to submit questions, as I said, throughout the night as the panelists, as the speakers present, as the panel is in session. Keep your questions in mind and please shoot them through on the Slido. Just a reminder as well to all of us in this room, myself included, that the ethic of the conversations and the spirit of the conversations that we encourage tonight are in a respectful tone. We are capable of disagreeing, but also being respectful. We are capable of agreeing or having a variety of views with each other, not always maybe being on the same page, but certainly conveying the spirit in a manner that is respectful, understanding, and holding dignity for both parties. I would now like to welcome Uncle Andrew Gardner to perform the official Welcome to Country. Uncle Andrew is a proud descendant of the Wurundjeri clans of the Woiwurrung people, and he's been a Muslim since 1995 and identifies as an Aboriginal Muslim Australian. Uncle Andrew's work life has been in the service of Aboriginal communities, Aboriginal community-controlled health and self-determination. He currently works for the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Corporation. A few years ago, he was elected to the First People's Assembly of Victoria as the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung reserved seat holder. He was appointed as co-chair for the interim Elders' Voice on the Assembly to engage with elders across the state, to inform and support their involvement in treaty, and to help establish a permanent Elders' Voice who will provide cultural oversight to the work of the Assembly. And this year, he was re-elected to the FPAV as the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung reserve seat holder to continue this work. He does immense work both for community and within community. Please welcome Uncle Andrew.
Good evening. It's a pleasure being here tonight. Andrew Hassan Gardner is my name, a proud Wurundjeri man of the Woiwurrung people. There were 6 clan groups of the Wurundjeri people, and our traditional country covered from the Werribee River in the west, along its flows to its headwater in the Great Dividing Range, then easterly along the Great Dividing Range to Mount Borbor, and then south to Bunyip and across to Mordialloc Creek. Now this is part of many stories that our ancestors and elders have told us by word of mouth around a campfire or around a dinner table. Over thousands of years, these stories and many others have been transferred on. And we believe in what our elders tell us as being true, because we had an oral history, not a written one. We had some artwork, had some rock art, but majority of the learning was around an oral history. So it's important to reflect on our country, but also how that affects a lot of other people, because we didn't actually own land, we were custodians of land. We call ourselves traditional owners because we've never ceded our sovereign rights to our land. We never sold it, we never gave it away. It was sold from under us. In 1839, in Melbourne particularly, between the Plenty River and the Werribee River, vast tracts of land were sold to just 29 men in 2 years. 29 men in 2 years. British men. The land that we held so dear, and we still hold so dear, it's like our mother, provides and cares for us as we care for it, provides us resources, food and shelter. For thousands of years this has occurred. We also took care of the waterways, healthy water, healthy people, You can have the fish, the crayfish, the eels, and it all is part of that circle of life. So from the tips of the leaves of the trees to the roots in the ground, we share our country with you today. I'd like to touch on there's a lot of issues that we want to sort of get across in a succinct, very quick way, and I know there's other people wanting to do some really important keynotes, so I don't want to sort of take up too much of a time, but obviously the national voice to Parliament is a significant thing we're here tonight to listen about, and the Uluru Statement from the Heart is a significant document produced in 2017. One of our chief architects is here tonight. I'd like to pay my particular respects to Aboriginal people that are here tonight, particularly Auntie Jill, Auntie Shirley, Marcus and Uncle Noel Pearson. I think the last time I physically met Noel was at Hopevale many years ago, and there was a rodeo on, and I forgot my hat. And you see how thin it's got? I had a blister on there when I got back to Cairns. But it was wonderful because my stark memories of that was Aboriginal people really caring about their community. The coloured sands stays in my mind. So we have a connection to country no matter where we are. But when I returned to Melbourne in 2005, I felt so much more home because it's my mother's country. And so to reflect on 2017 and the Uluru Statement, having recalled the treaty being rejected out of hand very quickly, it meant that treaty and truth was on the table. The state government, Victoria, took that up fairly quickly and produced the opportunity, enabled the First Peoples Assembly to be established in 2019. In 2021, the York Justice Commission was established to look after the truth element. We need to be able to tell our truths. One significant one I'd like to share with people is there are 22 registered massacre sites around Victoria of Aboriginal people, our community. That's only 22. The real number is far greater. And we get on to other topics about assimilation and practice genocide, forced removal of children from homes. These things you need to hear about, because you don't always hear about them, but you need to hear about them so you can have this sense of, we didn't know that. Oh, perhaps we should actually do the right thing and support them, make their lives different, better. I'll make a note. In March this year, the chief architects of the Uluru Statement were awarded in this very room. Professor Megan Davis, Dr. Patricia Anderson and Uncle Noel Pearson were awarded. They were nominated jointly by the City of Melbourne and the University of Melbourne. And they were awarded a significant prize, the Sydney Peace Prize. So, the voice isn't about animosity and dividing the country, it's about peace, it's about bringing people together. It was actually an invitation. It was actually an invitation by the 250 delegates in 2017 to involve government in conversation about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander needs. My way of thinking about it is that the voice would act very much like a lobby group. There's lots of lobby groups that already go to government and Parliament and knock on the door to progress their interests. And we should be able to have that too. There's many things that divide the country. Detention centres, that's a hot discussion whenever you bring it up. Racism, it's not just bubbling under the surface anymore, it's sticking its head up out of the surface. And of course, hate speech. I remember just this year, January 26th, day of mourning celebration event that I went to. National Front members turned up to particularly caused me discomfort and every other Aboriginal person that was at the event, saying that we didn't exist anymore, that had been taken over by white Australia. The council was really good. They just moved everybody inside and continued on with the ceremony. And the hate speech and all that just got drowned out and they went home. So a voice to Parliament's not going to divide the country. There's lots of other things that will. Lots of politicians saying lots of things lately, and it doesn't always bring the country together, does it? The proposed law to alter the Constitution, I think it'll get shown up tonight, but it's a simple question, very simple. Should be easy to just say yes to. I've been to lots of citizenship ceremonies this year and encouraged new Australian citizens to exercise their rights to be an Australian citizen, to vote. It's actually required. It's a mandatory thing. And I've only asked them to please consider voting yes. Never demanded people to vote it. But when I reflect back on the last 40, 50 years, the 1967 referendum still stands out. The most successful referendum held in Australia's history with a 93% yes vote. Aboriginal people drove that for 4 years to get the vote up. But that vote, the question was to include Aboriginal people in the population. Really only the census, just some numbers to add value to the demographics that would enable roads and transport to be considered and planned for. My mother didn't get to vote in 1967. Lots of my contemporaries' parents didn't get to vote. But my dad did. This year we have the right to vote because we're Australian citizens, finally. Not recently, but in the 70s. So, as we always do, we acknowledge and pay our respects to the land on which we meet, because the spirit of the land always gives us great considerations in whatever we talk about. And we always pay our respect to our elders, past, present and emerging. And I say to you and other elders here tonight, I see a lot of white hairs just like me, I'd like to say particularly welcome. Wominjeka. Wominjeka, in the traditional language of the Wurrung people, means welcome in a general way. So Wominjeka Yemen Kundi Bik. Bik is country, traditional country of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people. So welcome to the traditional country of the Wurundjeri clans of the Wurrung people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Uncle Andrew. I would now like to welcome to the mic Lord Mayor Sally Capp AO.
Well, hello. Thank you, Tasneem, for your emceeing this evening. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Melbourne Town Hall. It's wonderful to see you here this evening, to know that we walked together, so many of us, on Sunday amongst 60,000 people, showing their support for the referendum and the yes vote. And here we are tonight, the opportunity to learn more about this important issue. Thank you so much to Uncle Andrew for his gracious and warm and always informative and educational welcome to country. On behalf of the City of Melbourne, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're gathered this evening, the Wurundjeri Wurrung people, and pay respects to elders past and present. I thank them for their care of the land and the waterways as the longest continuing culture in the world, and acknowledge their unbroken connection to this country and this special place called Nurram, and they have had that connection for more than 2,000 generations. Now, we hear that word respect so often, and in just 23 days we have the opportunity to put that respect in writing on the referendum ballot paper. We hope that tonight's event will support you in making an informed decision about the word that you put on your ballot paper, a word that has the power to build a better future for all Australians. Because that's what this referendum is all about. Building a better future for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples that means a better future for Australia. I am really yet to meet a single person who, knowing the systematic disadvantage experienced in our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, doesn't want to turn the pages over. We can't change history. The events and the attitudes that have led to unacceptable inequity in our nation, but we can change the future. That's why the City of Melbourne has accepted the invitation in the Uluru Statement from the Heart, an incredible document created and signed by Aboriginal communities from across Australia and supported by representatives from all the major political parties in Australia. It's the invitation to Australian people to make a series of reforms: voice, treaty and truth. And the referendum is the opportunity to progress the first of these pillars, voice. The City of Melbourne stands firmly in the Yes campaign. We are absolutely behind Yes. It's hard not to get emotional because there's so much riding on this vote on October 14. And yes is so very important because it is establishing a better way for our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples to have more of a say, a better way to have a say in decisions that impact them. And it lays the groundwork for a brighter future that embraces and empowers all Australians, a future based on respect. Let's make sure, all of us, that we wake up on Sunday, October 15, having sent a clear message to our First Nations people, to all Australians, to the world, that we are a country built on respect. At the City of Melbourne, we also made a commitment to work with community to provide information to help make informed decisions and ensure that people are active in this important process of a referendum. If you would like to access more resources, please have a look at our City of Melbourne website. I'm really pleased to be here tonight with many of our councillors, with our CEO Alison Layton, with many of our officers as we work hard to do everything we can to support the Yes campaign. And seeing you here this evening gives us confidence that we can really make a difference on October 14. But the best thing about tonight is that we get to hear from incredible Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander leaders who have been involved in the Uluru Statement from the Heart, are incredibly active in leading the efforts as we head into the referendum on October 14. It's been exhausting, it's been difficult, and we want to say thank you so much to you for never tiring, for never giving up, for moving through what I know are very difficult conversations from time to time, but we hope that you all feel the respect and the love that we have and our absolute commitment to making a difference with the referendum this year. To all of us here this evening and everybody you know across Melbourne, Victoria and Australia, let's make history on October 14. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lord Mayor. To make our first keynote address for the night, I would like to welcome Auntie Jill Gallagher AO. Auntie Jill is a proud Gunditjmara woman from Western Victoria. She's an accomplished and experienced strategic leader championing the needs of First Nations community. She's over 2 decades advancing Aboriginal health and well-being through her work with VATCHO, with over 30 years of experience in general leadership. She's a respected leader who has dedicated her life in service of community, and for her efforts, she has been awarded an OAM. She's been inducted to the Victorian Honour Roll of Women and to the Victorian Aboriginal Honour Roll. Please welcome Auntie Jill to the stage.
Thank you very much for that. And before I begin, I also would like to acknowledge that we are on Aboriginal land and pay my respects to elders past and present. I'd like to acknowledge Andrew Gardner for his amazing welcome to country, and I'd like to acknowledge Marcus Stewart in the audience, Noel Pearson and his amazing leadership in the Aboriginal community well before the Uluru Statement of the Heart was crafted. Lord Mayor Sally Catt, can I just say your leadership in this space is outstanding, and I just applaud you. Not many other councils do that, by the way, but we won't go there. And my name is Jill Gallagher, and I'm a very proud Gunditjmara woman from Western Victoria. I am the former Treaty Advancement Commissioner and the current CEO of a peak body for Aboriginal health and wellbeing, VACCHO. And I was heavily involved in leading up to us all meeting at Uluru. I facilitated the regional dialogue here in Melbourne and was up at Uluru when the statement was crafted. I'm very proud. On Saturday, October the 14th, each and every Australian will have an opportunity to create your own legacy and be on the right side of one of the biggest moments in this nation's history. I'm often asked, why do Aboriginal people need a voice? Why does the voice need to be enshrined in the Constitution? And I'm going to answer that, but I think I do need to touch on history a little bit, because history is at the heart of why we need a voice. And I think I need to have a disclaimer. Some of the history is not nice. And I don't tell these stories, real stories, to make people feel uncomfortable or feel like you got to carry that guilt, because it's not your guilt to carry. None of you are responsible for what happened to our communities right across this continent. But you are responsible for making sure we learn from our mistakes in the past and we never repeat. It's well over 2 centuries since the brutal and rapid colonisation of Aboriginal lands. Diseases were introduced, our children were taken from our communities and our parents and our families. Our people were locked up, mainly for crimes of poverty. Then, of course, there was the massacres that Andrew spoke about. Then there was the rounding up and put on missions, and it was illegal to speak your language. It was illegal to practice your culture. Aboriginal people who were brought up on missions were told when to eat, when to sleep, whether you need a permit to leave that mission, whether you could see your children or not, whether you could own property or not, because it was illegal for Aboriginal people to create any sort of wealth. There's a publication that I would love you to remember the name of it, that I'm going to announce in a minute. I would like you to Google it. And it's titled Letters from Victorian Aboriginal Women. When you read these letters, you can hear the devastation and the despair of these Aboriginal women who simply wanted to see their children. And none of this can be denied. It's not just our say-so or our oral history stories. It is recorded in your history books. Our communities continue to feel the impacts of the brutal invasion, and I'm not going to stand here and quote statistics at you. But yes, we are overrepresented in the justice system, and yes, our children are taken away at alarming rates, and no one's doing anything to stop that. Here in Victoria alone, last year, suicides in the Victorian Aboriginal community increased by 75%, and that's in the coroner's report. That's not me just saying so. Deaths in custody still continue, even though there was a royal commission some 32 years ago. A lot of money that was spent on that. And still we have this greater numbers of Aboriginal people dying in custody. A voice to Parliament will hold governments to account on these failings. Something that it currently is not happening. I hear a lot of people talk about, well, why do we need another advisory committee? We've had heaps of advisory committees, we still got them, we had ATSIC, they're all gone. But we've never had a voice that speaks directly to Parliament. This is a first if we are successful. Earlier I said it's not just about Aboriginal people needing a voice. It's about Australia having an Aboriginal voice. There's a difference. And what I mean by that is many, many years ago I had the amazing opportunity to go to New Zealand. And when I got off at the Auckland airport, I saw the Māori culture at the airport. And when I got to travel through Auckland, I saw it in the landscape. It was visible. The same in Canada. What do we see when we go to Tullamarine? What do we see when we walk around Victoria or Melbourne? We are not visible in our own country. And when I came back to Australia, we hear our people being booed on the football fields. We see the media and the ridicule that we receive in media throughout this country. What I also noticed when I went overseas, other countries take pride in their ancient culture. I got the opportunity to go to Greece. The ancient Greeks, their mythologies, their stories, it's just amazing. And modern Greek, the modern Greek hold that up as pride. I haven't been to Egypt, but I learnt so much, when I did go to school by the way, I learnt so much about the Egyptians and how amazing those pyramids are. Of course they are. But I never learnt anything about how amazing our ancient and contemporary cultures in this continent. How many people in this audience go overseas and feel that pride and know that pride? And you can stand tall on a global platform to say Australia recognises and supports our ancient histories and our ancient cultures. A voice will lift our First Nations culture to being part of your national fabric. A voice will say to the world that Australia is more than just an England in the sun. We are unique. We have one of the oldest living cultures on the planet in your own backyard. And by the way, we don't want your backyard. That's for you to keep. Just thought I'd throw that in. But we want all Australians to be proud of your culture, that it has existed here for 60,000 plus years. A voice will allow our children, my children and your children, to grow up feeling and experiencing and tasting Aboriginal culture. And it will be a part of their national culture. A voice will mean that the future of Australia, all of us, gives breath to the life of 60,000 years of history on this continent. My mum, I don't know whether my 10 minutes is up yet, but I'm going to continue. My mum is 97 years old. She was born back in 1926. She's still alive. She's still got all her faculties and she's crusty as ever. But she has lived through decades of pain. She grew up on a mission without hope. She had 6 of her 10 children taken off her, and not because she was a bad mum, because she was black. And my mum still feels that pain today and still feels that she was responsible and it's her shame to carry. It's not. It's the past policies and past government's shame to carry, not my mother's. A voice will give us, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people from all corners of this continent, real standing in this country. The country we have fought for in world wars. The country we have won Olympic gold medals for. A voice, this voice of the people who have lived on this land for 60,000 plus years. This voice has the power to change that. You have the power to change that. I'm voting yes because the Aboriginal community wants a voice. I'm voting yes because the voice will unite Australia. I'm voting yes because the voice will put Aboriginal knowledge and ways of knowing, being and doing on a national platform and a world platform, and enhance the health and well-being of our communities. I'm voting yes because I don't want to sit around and wait another 230 years for meaningful change for my people and for all Australia. Now, I just want to finish by saying there's 2 numbers that I want you to remember. 40 and 2. Not 42. 40 plus 2. 40% of Australians are undecided. They reckon 30 to 40% are undecided about which way they will vote. And if every person in this room talks to at least 2 people who are undecided and convince them to vote yes, and then those people go and talk to 2 people, we will win this referendum. So thank you.
Wow, thank you, Auntie Jill, for your voice and for your relentless truth-telling and courage at every vantage that you get. Thank you so much. Wow. I would now like to welcome Noel Pearson to the stage. Noel comes from the Gudju Yamitra community of Hopevale. I don't know if I pronounced that right. For over 30 years, Noel Pearson has pursued key agendas to achieve land rights and socio-economic development outcomes for Cape York. He negotiated with the Keating government to establish the Native Title Act of 1993 after the High Court's landmark Mabo decision rejected the fiction of terra nullius. Noel served as a member of the expert panel on constitutional recognition of Indigenous Australians and the Referendum Council, and is currently a member of the First Nations Referendum Working Group. He continues to advocate for structural reforms to empower Indigenous people. Please welcome Noel Pearson.
We gather around this old campfire, my friend, a million stars are singing in the sky.
Good evening. I refuse to believe that the descendants of so many peoples from around the world who have found such a great home in Australia would reject the recognition of the owners of this country. I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that peoples whose origins and cultures and languages have enriched this country have brought these gifts from nations and places all around the globe, who could enjoy the privilege of having their home cultures as well as enjoying the culture of Australia, would reject the offer of this country's Indigenous peoples for reconciliation and peace. I refuse to believe that. It cannot be the case. Australians are too good for this now. We are such a rich country. We have cultures from ancient Europe, Italy, Greece, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Scandinavia, Asia, China, India, Africa. You call this your home now, and it surely is. How could there be any question about what we shall do on October the 14th? And the descendants of the original colonists from the United Kingdom, you know the provenance of your culture and language. You know the enormous privilege you have to be Australian. You know how those privileges contrasted with the legacy left to the Indigenous people. We all yearn for our ancient homelands and cultures and languages and all of the great things our ancestors bequeathed to us should be preserved and passed on to future generations. They are our gifts. And the great thing about Australia is this multicultural triumph. This diverse nation that celebrates diversity in unity, a beacon to the world. I refuse that such a country would reject the invitation of Uluru. I refuse to believe at this juncture of our history, so late in the day, 230 years since the original colonisation, having not recognised the peoples who call this their home and have no other home other than this one, that we would once again repeat the refusal. You have the great privilege. This is your country. You have a home country too, that you visit, that you take your children to, that still occupies a place in your heart. Well, it's the same with us. Except this place, the place in our heart, is beneath our feet. And we're going to contemplate saying no to recognition. I just don't believe it. I refuse to believe it. We're on the road to recognition. We're not a foolish people. We know when an opportunity is sitting right in front of us. And when a hand is extended by the people who lost so much because of the failure of recognition, who would cast aside the hand of friendship and peace? An important question is upon us, people. October the 14th. I refuse to believe that the peace and succour and refuge that Australia has represented for so many peoples from so many quarters of the globe, from the Middle East, from Israel, from all over the world, this country has provided refuge and opportunity and wealth and privilege. It has become your home. Our home has become your home. And are you going to tell the original owners of this home that you're having a careful think about whether they should be recognised? That is, of course, absurd. It's time for us to do this, and we've got to stop mucking around. Do you want more proof of who we are and our joint history and the powerlessness of our communities? We all know this. There need be no more exposure of the terrible conditions in which our people are situated. So, we can't muck about. This opportunity has taken too long to set up. Changing the Constitution is the hardest thing you can do in this democracy. No task is harder. Majority of voters in a majority of the states, you need someone and a government to kick the process off, and eventually you need the Parliament to pass the referendum question. All of those milestones have been met, and we're now literally 3 and a bit weeks away from voting. So I refuse to believe. I refuse to believe that there is that defeat is at all an option. We have got to work strenuously over these 3 and a bit weeks, and I especially saying this to the 97% whose vote counts here. You've got to do the work. I was sleeping on the couch 2 months ago, hoping the thing would fall into our lap, kind of assuming someone was going to take the campaign forward. And I see Dan Andrews on the TV, and he's saying, no, we've got to fight for this. I got up off the couch. That mongrel set me on a 2-month relentless journey around the country. I'm telling you, we're heading for success. But need we remind Australians? Need we? This is our home. Shouldn't we be recognising you? And that's what we'll be doing, actually. Yes, you're recognising us in the constitutions, but the real action is you're going to be recognised by us. You're going to be recognised as being part of the great Australian epic story of 60,000 years. You're going to look into a mirror and you're going to see a new you. You're going to understand something about being Australian that we never understood before, and that is, how could there be an Australia without the original peoples? And this magnificent society we've created, this multicultural unity, we'll see that in the mirror. It's our great achievement. But for all of the multicultures of this country, I say to you, we have no other home other than this one. We have no other languages other than the languages of this land. And we're anxious about their future existence. Let me turn to the words that we're voting on October the 14th. In conversations with fellow Australians, I urge you to return to the words of the constitutional alteration. It's the whole point of the exercise. It's the meaning of what we're doing. And the first sentence is the key: in recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first peoples of Australia. How could anyone have any problems with that? I'm going around asking the question whether Jesus would succeed today in this era of conspiracy theory and misinformation and so on. If he'd proposed the words for the Bible, blessed are the meek. Imagine the disputation and strife. Blessed? Who's getting a leg up? Who's getting more than somebody else? What privileges are being proposed for the meek? And who are the meek anyway? Why aren't the arrogant also extolled? And then Jesus would try to write, shall inherit the earth. There's the backyards. There's the beaches. There's the national parks. Gone. There's the hidden agenda. He couldn't do it today. Not with Sky or Facebook. But that first sentence is the key in recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first peoples of Australia. Secondly, the key is the guarantee or promise by the Australian people, there shall be a body. It's absolutely key. It means that whatever Parliament decides in relation to the details and design of a body from time to time, it may repeal legislation, amend legislation, do whatever it likes, but the Constitution instructs the Parliament, there shall be a body. And the third element of the provision is the purpose. What is the purpose? It is to make representations to the Parliament and executive government. Make representations is democracy 101. Everybody does it. Individuals, industry organisations, business groups, mining organisations, farmers, environmental groups, human rights groups, they all make representations, and the Voice will similarly make representations. They will make representations on behalf of the two peoples of Australia, the two Indigenous peoples, Aborigines and Torres Strait Islanders. On what? On matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, not nuclear submarines, parking tickets. Credlin said if there was another siege in the Lint Cafe in Sydney and there was an Indigenous gunman involved, the police would have to first ring the Voice. These are the kind of lurid misinformation that's been put out there by the No campaign and the hostile media about the purpose and scope of the Voice. But the real purpose and scope is in purple, on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And finally, the detail. Where's the detail? Yeah, have you heard that question? Where's the detail? Somebody's hiding the detail somewhere or refusing to divulge. Well, the answer is in the last section. The detail is the Parliament shall have power to make laws. It's Parliament that furnishes the detail. It always does. That's how our system works. The Constitution gives Parliament the power, and then the Parliament makes the laws. And when they make the laws, that's the detail. Now remember, or might I point out that it's not the government. The government doesn't make the detail. It's the Parliament. So the Labor government, currently in Canberra, will have to get it through the Senate. That's not controlled by them. That's how our system works. And yet it has been the very parliamentarians who've been asking the question, where's the detail? Refusing to accept that if they looked at the provision, there is the answer about composition, functions, powers and procedures. So this is a very straightforward explanation of what we're voting on October the 14th. That such controversies have been confected around this is a marvel. But if we can have conversations over the remaining weeks with our fellow Australians and show them these words. My experience over the last 8 weeks has been that the willingness of people to listen and to learn and to change their view is higher than you think. If you're willing to have the conversations, if you're willing to stop being a voyeur, stop being a tourist, and actually get on the phone or get down to the railway station, then we can win this. So I just want to say that the time is now upon us to make a decision about rectifying a problem that is more than 2 centuries old. Jill Gallagher's speech tonight was just the most, it's the most powerful I've heard on the campaign trail. I feel exactly the same way. I just want Australians to really reflect on the question that's facing us as a nation. That it would be absurd to not take up this once-in-a-nation's-lifetime opportunity. We simply will not have another chance again. There is no second referendum. There is no other pathway to constitutional recognition. We'll be arguing about this in another 100 years' time. I can guarantee you that, if we fail on October the 14th. And too many Australians, possibly including people in this room, too many Australians are, it would be good if we won this, but it'd be very sad if you guys lose. No, we are responsible for this. It's our constitution, it's our country, and it's our children who will either be bequeathed a new chapter in the history of our country or saddled with the broken past. Thank you.
Thank you, Noel, for your signature style of delivering truth, and again, important messages that we need to hear and discuss. I am going to, at this point, ask our panellists to join us here on the stage for a conversation. So we did have Uncle Andrew, Auntie Jill Gallagher, and I would also like to welcome, in addition to the two of them, Dr. Shireen Morris and Marcus Stewart. So Dr. Shireen Morris is a constitutional lawyer and a director of the Radical Centre Reform Lab, that's a great name, at Macquarie University Law School. She spent the last 12 years working with Indigenous leaders like Noel Pearson and the Cape York Institute, devising and advocating the concept of a constitutionally guaranteed First Nations voice. Since 2022, she's been working to build multi-faith and multicultural support for the voice referendum. Welcome, Shireen, over there, thank you. And at the end of the panel there in the Akubra is Marcus Stewart. He is a negotiator and strategist with more than 15 years' experience in Aboriginal affairs. Marcus is also an inaugural member of the First Peoples Assembly of Victoria, representing the Taungurung Land and Waters Council. Please welcome Marcus Stewart. So we have a ton of questions that have been filtered through to Slido so that we can get the conversation started. And I might put you in the hot seat, Shireen, since we haven't heard from you yet. How would a voice of Parliament respond to circumstances where Parliament were to disregard its advice or guidance?
Yeah, great question. Hi, everybody. Two amazing speeches. Wow, I feel so honoured to be on such an illustrious panel. This is just an advisory body, an advisory voice to funnel insights and wisdom and experience from local Indigenous communities around the country so that Parliament and government can hear from Indigenous people on the ground when making laws and policies about them. You know, Noel explained the words of the provision that we're voting on. That's what we're voting on. Not welcome to country, you know, not all these other things that the no case want to talk about. You'll notice the no case wants to talk about everything other than what we're actually voting on, which is the words that Noel put up on the screen. And the words are very clear. This is an Indigenous body that will make representations to the Parliament and the government on laws and policies made about Indigenous peoples, and may make representations. That just means can give advice. It's actually an even more modest way, legally speaking, of saying advice. Somewhere along the lines in the last 9 to 10 years, in the beginning they were talking about the word advice, and the experts actually switched the word from advice to representations to make doubly, triply clear that this is just non-binding advice, no veto, no expectation that the government or the Parliament has to follow the advice, right? So this is just advice. So if government doesn't take it on board, nothing happens, essentially.
Just segueing from that sentiment, there's another question. I'm going to put this to Andrew and Auntie Jill and Noel as well, perhaps. What is the reasoning then and the perspective behind First Nations people who are saying no? Yeah, Andrew, you can start. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I got the hard one. Why are some Aboriginal people saying no? Mainly because it was the process has not been driven by them. Government took control of that and run with the discussion. If I revert back to 1967, Aboriginal people developed that from the ground and developed it over 4 years. They had a successful outcome. This has been a much shorter period, and the government sort of pushed it along more than we have been able to. So Aboriginal people would have liked to have had their fingerprints all over it, moving it forward. That's feedback that I've had in Victoria. Now, if we've put that proposition to those people and said, well, the Uluru Statement was an invitation by our people to government to listen to us about voice, treaty and truth, and some of those have been taken up already, why shouldn't we, given the fact that we have had the right to vote since the mid-70s, why shouldn't we exercise our right and vote for ourselves? Vote for a voice that will represent and do just exactly that. Just provide representation, give advice. So this is the better way of doing things. Because it's been found, the more the programs and services that our people actually run with, develop and deliver, the more successful that they actually are. When they're actually government-driven, said, here it is what we want you to do, they're less likely to be engaged.
Can I ask Marcus if you wanted to contribute to that response as well?
Yeah, sure. I've heard similar to Andrew, but I've also heard, and I also know, our community don't trust government. We heard Auntie Jill speak. Why would they? History tells us that governments consecutively haven't been kind, putting it diplomatically, to our community. So there's a small proportion of our community that have lost faith in governments. That's why the Uluru Statement from the Heart is an invitation to the Australian people. Because we've lost faith in the government's ability to deliver outcomes for our most vulnerable and majority of our people. And so we're putting this to a referendum and we're putting our fate in the hands of the Australian people. So hopefully, on October 15, wake up a better country, wake up a unified country. But it's also to be important that we shouldn't be held to higher democratic standards than any other person in this country. over 80% of our people support a voice to Parliament. If 80% of the rest of the population support a voice to Parliament, we win this hands down. So we've got to remember, we live in a democracy too. We're not all going to agree, and it shouldn't be the case that 80% of the media coverage goes to the 20% of our mob who disagree.
Okay. Thank you. Can I throw to you both, Noel and Auntie Jill, what's the best response to people who tell me or who say that they're concerned the voice will be ineffective like other Indigenous bodies have been in the past?
I'm struggling to hear.
Oh, should I say it again?
No, I'm struggling to hear because it's, to me, and I don't know what it is, it's all wobbly. Was the question...
We've heard that... Oh no, I've lost the question. It's gone. For people who think that the voice is going to be ineffective as a body, what do you say to that?
Okay. What do I say to that is, I mean, who knows? As we've stated before, it is an advisory body, but who knows whether it's going to be effective. But I am very sure it'll be effective. I am very sure it will hold governments accountable. And yes, government don't have to listen, but they've been provided advice. And there are other ways to convince, but you've got to have that voice in there. And I believe it will be effective in many ways. We've never had a voice to Parliament in the history of this country. We've never had it. This will be a first. Everything else in the past hasn't worked. And when it started to work, they got rid of it. So I am confident that this voice will not only have an impact on better outcomes for our people right across this country, but it will also reinforce the High Court's decision that Australia was not terra nullius. It will also ensure that we will never become invisible in our own country again.
Well, I've got a pointed, tricky one for you here. We've heard that the voice will act like a lobby group or advisory board. However, those don't need changes to the Constitution. Why does the voice need to change the Constitution when other advisory groups don't? Do we instead need a constitutional change for MPs to listen to an advisory board? You, yeah. Do you have a mic? Oh, Shereen.
You know, the key difference between this, if we vote yes, the key difference between this and the advisory bodies of the past is the constitutional guarantee, right? If we vote yes to this, we will be making a national promise, a national commitment embedded in the Constitution that Indigenous people will always have a voice, that Indigenous communities will always be heard in their affairs. So, you know, to the question that Jill was asked before, that's a key difference. We've never had that before in this country. Every Indigenous body of the past has been short-lived. Therefore, they couldn't give frank and fearless advice. They didn't stick around long enough to have true impact. The enduring commitment that we make as Australians is what will change the system, but change the political culture, right? Because a yes vote is powerful. We've only changed the Constitution 8 times since 1901. That has a profound power, if we vote yes, that could change policy making in this country that eventually will help us close the gap. So the reason it needs to be in the Constitution, well, firstly, because we're talking about constitutional recognition, Indigenous people were excluded, explicitly excluded from the Constitution of 1901. And that's why that power dynamic that the Constitution established is what allowed all those discriminatory laws that Jill talked about, right? We're talking about fixing that by finally including, finally recognising the peoples who were excluded. That's the first reason it's got to be in the Constitution. But the second reason is permanency. The guarantee that Noel talked about, there shall be a body. If we vote yes, that's us, the Australian people, making a promise that never again will Indigenous communities in this country be subject to top-down laws and decision-making by politicians in Canberra and bureaucrats in Canberra who think they know best. And they might have good intentions, but if you read the Productivity Commission's report into closing the gap a few weeks ago, the Productivity Commission said what Indigenous people have been saying. They said we're failing to close the gap in this country because bureaucrats and politicians in Canberra mean well, but they don't listen to Indigenous communities. Everything is top-down, right? So the second reason is the permanency. We need that enduring promise. This needs to be a permanent voice for Indigenous communities.
Thank you, Shireen.
Can I add one thing?
Sure, Marcus. Go.
I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I'm happy to provide constitutional advice if you're willing. No, I'm only kidding. Going into we heard the question was about lobbyist groups, which their role is within a political cycle. Being protected in the Constitution puts it above politics. It can start thinking and acting and advising on the long-term solutions for our most vulnerable in our communities, and not get stuck in political cycles or political goodwill, budget bids or election commitments. We need to focus on long-term solutions to improve the lives of our people, and that's why it needs to be enshrined in the Constitution so it's above politics.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcus. Now I'm going to shoot to you, Noel. You can handball this one. I'll leave it up to you, but isn't the member of MPs of Aboriginal background enough already for having a voice? Why would we think that they don't have a sufficient voice already? Oh, wow.
I'm happy to jump in, but it'll probably put me on the couch tonight. But
I'll let you go.
You can open the bowl.
There's 11 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander members of Parliament already. Some senators, 1 or 2 House of Representatives. They don't represent all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. They only represent the constituents that elected them, yeah? But subject to the electoral cycle that we just heard about, they could get unelected. And therefore they wouldn't actually stand to actually represent anybody. So there has to be this permanency. Must be permanency. The promise of the Australian people that creates permanency so their issues can always be listened to.
Thank you. Jill, it's been said that by the No campaign, who've labelled the Voice as divisive and racist. How do you respond to the claim that it's a racist platform?
Well, how do I respond to that? In the past, I've responded when people have said that to me. I've responded by saying, well, it was a racist decision when they decided to not include us in the Constitution. It was a racist decision when they decided to declare us terra nullius. It was a racist decision when they decided to take our children away. It was a racist decision not to recognise us. That okay?
And this is to any of you. I mean, it's also been said of the referendum that this isn't dividing a nation, but it's revealing a nation. Shireen, do you have any commentary on that and what you've observed and how you think it's tracking?
Well, I hope it reveals us to be a great nation. You know, Australia is one of the greatest countries in the world. You know, we're great in so many ways, except for this one thing. We have a great shame in the heart of our nation with respect to the way that our previous governments have treated Indigenous peoples. They've been excluded in the past. they've been discriminated against, and we've heard a bit about the violence that they've suffered as well. And yet, they're coming to us with hands outstretched, saying, actually, even though you've excluded us in the past, we want to be included. They're saying they want to be recognised. And all they're asking for is an advisory voice in decisions made about them. So I have great hope that it reveals the greatness of this country. And as Noel said, we've got 3 and a bit weeks to really harness our better angels and do the work. And I just want to reiterate what Noel said. Don't leave it up to just Indigenous people. This will get over the line only if everyone here who thinks this is a fair and reasonable request, if you think this is fair and reasonable, go out there and persuade everyone you know who is sitting on the fence. Knock on doors, stand at the train stations, and then we will win.
And wear a badge. We have them available at the door as you're leaving, so wear them with pride and share them around. We have like maybe 1 or 2 minutes left, and I wanted to ask each of you, assuming we get a yes on the 14th, the outcome that many are hoping for, what would you want to see done next? What would be the first thing you'd put your focus and attention to, Jill?
What would I want to see the first thing next? I just want to get over my hangover. Really? No, I don't drink, by the way. But if there is a yes, I will be. What I want to see first is probably just a little bit of downtime, and then I think that's where the real work starts at a national level, with national leaders coming together and assisting government to design what this voice looks like. That's the next step, and I don't know how long that's going to take. You know, we've designed a voice here in Victoria. Victoria is quite progressive in a lot of areas, and all you had to do was look at last Sunday, when you had 60,000 plus Victorians come out in support of a voice. It was just amazing. Prior to Sunday, I was feeling a little bit depressed, but Sunday, you cured that for me, so thank you. But yeah, I think the design work and how that's going to pan out is what I'd like to see start.
Thank you. Noel, did you want to share your one wish?
I think when we win, everybody wins, including the no's. We have to win for them too. If we lose, then everybody loses. So I'm really looking forward to an Australia where we resoundingly vote for we, the Australian people. At the moment, the No campaign is running an us versus them campaign. That, by definition, is dividing Australians. But the Yes campaign has got to continue with a message of we, which is the largest kind of definition of who we are. The first person plural, we, the Australian people. And so when we emerge from the other side of this referendum, we're going to have built the biggest we in a long, long time. We've never had a real we. When we built the Constitution in 1901, it was us versus them. And them were out in the wood heap, left out of the Constitution. Them were the people who own this country. So this referendum is about going from us and them to we. It's not been easy. It's not easy now and won't be easy over the next 3 weeks. Because us and them is the easiest campaign to run. You just need to scare the public about the other mob. Fear and anger and conspiracy, they're all available to you to create us and them. Whereas our campaign has always had to face the challenge of we. So that's what I hope after the election. We will really have built the biggest we ever. We, the Australian people.
Thank you, Noel. Did you want to add one more, Marcus? Yeah. If you have something, please give us.
What was the question again?
What would be your one go-to action that you'd really like to start with if we get the yes?
I mean, I haven't thought about that before, what a go-to action would be, or what it'd be like waking up on the back of a successful yes vote. But I've thought about what it'd mean for the Australian people, what changes for them. They'd wake up, make their coffee, make their breakfast, see their kids, their grandkids, walk their dogs, get ready for work on Monday. And for us, we have the opportunity to start moving the dial on improving the lives of our people. But importantly, the Australian public would have spoken and sent a clear message that we are not responsible for the atrocities of the past, but we want to be responsible for the solutions of the future. And that's a kind of country I want to wake up to on the 15th of October.
Wow. And Andrew, if you have something really quick that you want to also end with.
Oh, look, I agree with everybody.
Thank you.
But I would like to say a couple of things. Australia is still the only Commonwealth country not to have a treaty with its Indigenous people. That's an international blight. So if we're successful on the 15th of October, then I agree. It's a better we. Australia, we can be a part of, yeah? But why shouldn't we be recognised in the Constitution as First Nations people? We should. We were here first. It shouldn't be in the Constitution in a negative way, above everybody else. Should we? No, we shouldn't. We should be included.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Shireen. Thank you, Auntie Jill. Thank you, Noel. Thank you to all our panellists thank you for your contributions that have been considered and respectful. Your responses, which have been thought-provoking. And I am going to invite Auntie Jill to give us a closing call to action, because if you think you've been warmed up, you haven't yet. It's not over yet. Auntie Jill, please come up to the lectern for a rousing call to action. I'll give you a couple of minutes, but please thank the rest of our panellists. Thank you. You can go down that way.
I don't?
Go. You go, Auntie Jill.
All right. So, look, we've been sitting here for a fair while, and I've got the, I don't know why, but I'm very privileged to have the last sort of comments. But the call to action that I want to put out there in this room, 2 weeks away, and we go to a referendum and to recognise one of the oldest living cultures on the planet in this country's constitution. I'm asking you to be our warriors, our foot soldiers. Go out there and talk to your families and your friends and your next door neighbours if you think it's safe, by the way. Go out there. You've heard so much information tonight. Noel's presentation with what is being proposed. That's important information. Speak to people. And as I said, you speak to 2 people and you get them over the line. Then you ask them to carry that baton. They have to go out and get 2 people. We can win this referendum with your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie Jill. There has been a lot of conversation, a lot of feel-good moments and aha moments throughout the night, but we haven't finished yet because we want to leave you with something incredible now, which will be a musical interlude. Australian world music star, Mitch Tambo. He is a new voice for a generation producing music that cuts across culture. Yeah, woohoo, absolutely. He's a proud Gamilaroi man and one of Australia's most unique and electrifying First Nations entertainers. He's been hailed as the new voice of our generation. No pun intended there, I'm sure. No. Now an international sensation in the world music scene, his debut album, Guruma Lee, raced up music charts within Australia, the UK, the US, Europe, Asia and New Zealand. Just on its release, straight there. He's also achieved 10 consecutive number ones on iTunes. He's been nominated for 2 Golden Guitar Awards for his work on Come Together, alongside Lee Kernahan and Isaiah Firebrace for a Vocal Collaboration of the Year and Heritage Song of the Year. Absolute superstar performing his rendition of You're the Voice and his hit song, Heal. Please join me in welcoming Mitch Tambo.
To acknowledge country, acknowledge the Wurundjeri people, Bumwurrung peoples and the Kulin Nation, all of their ancestors that have been here since the beginning of creation, who we still feel today in the spirit.
I can feel
Thank you. It's a bit of a lively song for this forum, isn't it? It's like I feel like I just forced you all into a festival moment. But we did it. I think I didn't survive, you survived. Again, my name's Mitch Tambo. I'm a proud Gamilaroi man. It's an honour to be here this evening. I really hope that you've received whatever you come to receive this evening, and to empower you to make an informed decision. Make a decision built upon purpose, upon capacity, and upon the intention of making the right choice for the future generations to come, which is a really beautiful position we all sit in right now, and that position is to inform ourselves and put ourselves in an empowered position to make a really purposeful choice to set the next generation up. So here we are, here we stand. This next song, I hope you all enjoy it. I'm not going to introduce it, I'm just going to sing it. I hope you had a great evening. Again, my name's Mitch Tambo. Thank you. There's a real spirit in this land. Our ancestors have walked over this land since the beginning of creation, telling ancient stories, filling us with our identity, our belonging, our connection. Today we still feel our ancestors. We feel them watch over us in the wings of the Malian, the wedge-tailed eagle. We see and feel their strength in the mighty chest of the bandar, the kangaroo. And we feel their spirit whisper to us in the whispers of the wind. You're the voice. I'm the voice. Together, let's make a change. Have a beautiful evening. Take care. Thank you for having me.
Mitch Tambo, everybody. That was incredible. Whoa. What an electric performance. I don't think there would be a more perfect song to exist for a campaign in the universe. So kudos to John Farnham, kudos to Mitch Tambo. I mean, that was incredible. Thank you so much. I want to thank you all who have come here tonight. I want to thank those that have joined online. I want to thank the events team at the City of Melbourne and all that have been involved for planning. Thank our incredible speakers today, Uncle Andrew, Auntie Jill Gallagher, Noel Pearson, Marcus Stewart, Dr. Shireen Morris, and of course Lord Mayor Sally Capp. It's been a thrill and a personal delight to be able to see all of us come together and have a respectful, robust and memorable conversation. As Lord Mayor alluded to, we can't change history, but we can ensure moving forward we are on the right side of it after October 14th. So please think about that. Please grab a badge on your way out. I want to also just end with an idea that came into my mind just during the evening when I thought of Leela Watson, the famous Indigenous activist. She had a quote that's famous and I think it's perennial. It talks to the issue of communication and engagement, and it's as apt today as it ever was. She said very famously, "If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come here because your liberation is bound with mine, then let us work together." So make an effort to be on the right side. My name is Tasneem Chopra. On behalf of City of Melbourne, I want to thank you for being here this evening and travel home safe. Good night.